The gaming community let out a little collective sigh when Bethesda announced its reboot of the 2006 game Prey, which would literally have nothing to do with the previous franchise other than to fight aliens, raising eyebrows to whether this was a simple cash grab and a vaguely recognisable game title. Fortunately, the game has been released and is actually really very good. Although by no means perfect, it's something that's interesting following in the footsteps of System Shock and Bioshock series, with some splatterings of Deus Ex and general nods to cyberpunk as a genre. The beginning of Prey creates a great sense of intrigue and presents us with the threat of the Typhon, an alien race we've been injecting into our brains on this space station Talos 1, granting us essentially magic powers. Of course, they're not the friendliest bunch of shape-shifting aliens and promptly break out of their testing chambers and start wreaking havoc across the oddly Art Deco Talos 1. A nod to the fact that we're playing in an alternative timeline where Kennedy survived the assassination attempt and the Russians and Americans went hand in hand up into space, and also bad taste stuck around forever. The Mimic Typhon can mimic anything, hence providing this threat that they can hide in plain sight, adding to the general spookiness and burning uneasiness that decorates Prey's atmosphere. As either a male or female Morgan you, get it, of course have amnesia, a trope we are now also familiar with in video gaming. I don't think we can process the idea of a playable character that doesn't have amnesia. And you're left to wander the wreckage of the Talos 1, attempting to save or perhaps brutally murder the remaining survivors, and to destroy the pesky Typhon. Interesting, this beginning has us break out of a simulation, which is a nice little bit of foreshadowing. So far so good, so far so video games. It's an enjoyable first-person action-adventure romp with a fully fleshed environment that's a joy to investigate, mainly due to the extensive world building. Every single NPC, dead or alive, is named. You can find character sheets for this alternative world's D&D group in the space station, and one of the weapons is a kind of useful crossbow that fires foam darts that was created by a bored engineer. These are all like nice small examples of how Bethesda and Arcane have really fleshed out the setting. The combat is a little clunky, as these games tend to be, and there's some nits to be picked depending on your general nitpickiness. Of course, I'm guessing you've already played through the game already if you're watching this, or you perhaps simply love massive game-ruining spoilers, but this is the crux of what I wanted to talk about. The ending of Prey is perhaps one of the most satisfying conclusions I've seen in recent video game history, and I don't say that completely lightly, because it wasn't my first impression. It ticked the right boxes for an ending, sure, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt like it needs slightly more discussion.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridors. How can you challenge a perfect, immortal machine?
Let's talk about context. In terms of gameplay setting and overall themes, I could only find myself drawing direct comparisons to System Shock 2. In fact, it made me want to fire up my old Steam version and give it another blast. Now, as great as System Shock 2 is, the ending is one of the worst going for a classic title. It's oddly out of character to the survival horror aspects and ends on more of a funny note.
If I desired, I could improve you. Transform you into something more efficient. Join me, human, and we can move. And we can move together.
Nah.
It's jarring, an ending that actually stuck with me because of its left field wackiness in what was otherwise a fairly serious game, suicidal robots aside. For a game that consisted of decisions being made by the player, such as choosing the career that built your stats to the beginning of the game, it suddenly and abruptly took away that decision making for essentially a quick and daft quip, with a Netflix horror-esque teaser afterwards. The game is almost as old as me, so I understand that I can't expect the game to give me a sweet multiple choice ending. If done nowadays, I can imagine the choice being made for me due to my actions throughout the playthrough, such as The Witcher or Bioshock does. Essentially, it's like the march of progress. Deus Ex made the mistake of having us just choose one of multiple hundred endings, which all seemed as depressing as the next. So upon playing Prey, I suddenly had this worry that the ending was going to be really bad, or at least very generic. Floating in my head I had, You choose to join the Typhon, and you're injected with so much brain juice that you can't handle it, leading them to destroying humanity. You choose to remain as human as possible and get the best ending. You fight the big boss at the end, it doesn't really matter. You fight the big boss and apply you the first 2 points. You die in a selfless accident to prevent humanity being attacked or wiped out by the Typhon, and bonus, your fat brother Alex turns out to be a Typhon and the final boss. BioShock had this problem, and although it nailed character and setting, the ending was very lacklustre, and with an out-of-place boss fight and 2 endings that equalled either world domination or be a nice dad. BioShock Infinite seemed to take this criticism and decided to go balls deep into the ending, trying its hardest to create something wholly special in the final moments while forgetting to actually put that much effort into the rest of the game up to that point. Here I'm not completely dissing BioShock Infinite, it's a good game, I just felt the ending came first and they wanted to work their way up to it. A fear I had playing Prey was that it began really well. It was absorbing, compelling and stylish. Would the rest of the game compare, or would it just be a game that started interesting and then petered out towards the end, almost like an inversion of Infinite? So after choosing to destroy the Typhon against the wishes of an AI construct, destroying them but preserving human life in the base, I was greeted with a short cinematic explosion and a fade to title sequence, credits going by while people wandered about a lobby on the Talos 1. I thought they'd fucked it. Had the game been rushed? Do you have to replay it to get the proper ending? The disappointment of previous games crept back, and suddenly, worse, I felt wishing for a snarky one-liner.
Nah.
Some little closure to this game, no matter how dumb. I've seen enough Marvel movies that I know to stick around after the credits, and here was where Prey delivered and offered me reprieve from my previous misgivings. Turns out it was all a dream, or at least an artificial simulation designed to see if meshing humans together with aliens could create a Typhon that felt empathy, understanding human life and not being a big indiscriminate murderer. There are hints to this through the game. Some emails have researchers believing the lack of empathy due to a lack of mirror neurons or something. So each major quest-giving NPC you met in your travels was actually a robot sentinel, and you were a Typhon reliving the memories of the real Morgan Yu. Where the real Morgan Yu is, who knows? Presuming you didn't play the game as a complete bastard, the Sentinels, the robots, will praise you according to your performance on their quests. Then Big Alex will show you that Earth has actually already been invaded by the Typhon, and you, the player character, are one of their last-ditch efforts to save humanity. You can choose to kill them all there and then, or shake Alex's hand, presumably in agreement that you'll help humanity from Typhon assimilation/destruction. I think the kill them all option is there for like a little bit of flavour, so with my own ease of mind I'm treating the shake hand option as canon. Now back in primary school I was taught that to end your story with "and it was all a dream" was one of the most heinous crimes one could commit in storytelling. Luckily it's a crime not often seen perpetrated, although I am looking at you Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. So it's tempting to lambaste Prey for doing almost exactly that. Instead it wasn't exactly that. In fact it was a clever reconsidering of the trope. Instead of making all the previous experience meaningless, it gave it greater profundity. All of it was a test of nature, of personal metal, directly referencing on the person playing the game as well as the character of Morgan Yu. It also has darker connotations, the idea of how manipulative the humans in Prey are and their willingness to push experimental boundaries, with little care for the collateral, expanding on one of the previous parts of the game dealing with human experimentation and the apparent callousness that came with it. It's fitting that the Typhon are fundamental in their actions, while humans are portrayed as a mix of grey. It was the humans' lack of humanity and chasing to become essentially gods that led them into this dire situation to begin with. Building further on this concept, the mimics can become almost anything: a cup, a staple gun, a trash can, while not able to truly understand another being beyond its own, only able to achieve imitation. Playing with this concept of empathy, but inverting it. If this is all an experiment for the sake of empathy, then it succeeded. As the humans on Talos lost their humanity, our character, an alien, gained it. Grand chin-scratching themes aside, it also works as sequel fodder. The risk of Typhon invading the Earth has actually already happened. The struggle to remove them or pacify them has to begin. It didn't end with a monster popping its head at the screen. You're shown a city skyline filled with Typhon matter. And thanks to the events of the game, we already know this is a bad situation for humanity, but not one that could mean the end. Presumably will become humanity's ace in dealing with the alien threat. For all its comparisons to System Shock and Deus Ex, this reminded me more of Half-Life franchise, particularly the later games. Morgan Freeman. Yep, Gordon Freeman. I'm gonna leave that in. Gordon Freeman has something special about him beyond simple survival, a great role to play in an interdimensional war, although we're never explicitly told what it is, yet. Prey has us exactly know what our ability is and what the stakes are, and there's a huge number of possibilities for gameplay and storytelling that could go in any direction. I wonder if Prey might actually become a beloved franchise in its own right, doing what Half-Life done what now feels so long ago. Prey has achieved something pretty unexpected, and frankly I've actually never wanted a sequel to a game quite so badly. I hope that the ending of Prey isn't just the ending, but also the beginning.